Welcome back to the Water Cooler, knocking around with Matt Zimmer today from the Sioux Falls Argus Leader Media, and we'll get to some South Dakota State University stuff. But first, the Minnesota Vikings, and you're a huge Vikings fan. You watch a little different. You have a little different reaction than most people to a lot of things. But where were you at? What was the deal when they made the last play against New Orleans?
I was on my couch and had been, heavily invested in the game and the ups and downs and everything. And then when it looked like they blew it, when the Saints got the field goal to take the lead, I was not holding out much hope for a miracle. I was kind of, slumped over on the couch going, well, they did it to me again. And then the pass is in the air, and as soon as the camera panned over to where Stephon Diggs was, you could see he could catch that. Yeah. And he catches it, and you're like, he could get out of bounds. And they're like, oh my gosh. And the whole time I just kind of watched it like, really? Where's the flag? He stepped out of bounds, something. I didn't believe it was really happening until, a few seconds. I was like, wow, they really won. And I was a little disappointed that I kind of didn't enjoy it as much as I should have.
Vikes fans are like that. They
that's what they've done to me over the years.
But they just say, no, it was another disaster. Whatever. Yeah. And you were like that? You were almost mad that they won?
Well, not mad that they won, but it was just like, really, that's the way you had to do it.
They put you through that.
Yeah, why with the ups, just typical Vikings. But they live to play another day.
All right, at Philadelphia this weekend, you got a feeling on this one?
I'm nervous because I'm a Vikings fan.
Yeah.
It
won't go well.
I think the Saints game was the tougher of the two. So it's certainly not a lock by any means, but with their defense against a Carson Wentz-less Eagles team, that's about as good of a scenario as you could ask for.
All right. Fine. We'll move on from the happy ending for Vikes fans there. All right, South Dakota State University, we'll get to basketball here in a minute, but I want to talk about football a little bit and a follow-up to this. Jacks get as far as they did this year. They win 11 games to get to those national semis. But I think they need to build a big, nastier defense than they've ever had. Their offense is going to be fine going forward, but you have to have a nasty defense like James Madison had, like North Dakota State had, to win a national championship. You agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty obvious watching, who were the two teams that made it to the end. They both had outstanding defenses. The Jacks had a disastrous game in the semifinals with all the turnovers, but some of that was because of James Madison. They had guys that made those plays, that forced them into that kind of thing. And the Jacks' defense certainly hasn't been bad by any means. Then they have some athletes too, but I think the difference is the best teams are always the teams that are the best up front on offense and on defense. Jacks have not, as you said, had any difficulty finding playmakers, skill guys that can make plays. They need to be better offensive line, defensive line.
Yeah, Terry Christian's going to be back. Their offense is going to be fine. Some of those young receivers are going to step up. But to get a pass rush and get a nasty defense is the next step for the Jacks. NFL draft coming up in April. Dallas Goedert, tight end for the Jacks, first-round pick or not?
It's hard to say, but I mean, he's got as good a shot as anybody, that's ever come out of here really, or from one of the South Dakota colleges anyway. I mean, he's probably at least going to be the first tight end picked.
So?
Almost every mock draft, especially from the guys you take a little more seriously, they all have him number one. Now, I don't know what NFL teams' needs are, how many teams need a tight end, I don't know. But it looks like he's probably going to be the first one taken. I mean, anything lower than the second round would really surprise me.
All right, and then Jake Wieneke, the wide receiver for the Jacks, will he be drafted? Will he end up being a free agent?
I think he'll get drafted. I mean, he's had such a tremendous career. He obviously had a little bit of a down year his senior year, but the numbers still speak for themselves. He's got all the measurables. And then, just last year, the best FCS wide receiver was Cooper Kupp. He was a third-round pick and had a really good rookie year in the NFL. So if you think those two guys are comparable, plus you look at the numbers Jake put up whenever they played up, TCU, Kansas, those are some of the best games of his career. I think he's a safe bet if you're an NFL team.
Was that a cool season just knowing that we got through this year with two guys that are going to go in the NFL?
Probably not going to see that too many more times.
That was fun. All right, Jackrabbit women's basketball. Let's talk about that. The Jacks are 4-0 in Summit League play so far. They've beaten Omaha, North Dakota State, Denver, and Oral Roberts. Really 4 games maybe that they should have won. The expectations are so high for the women.
Yeah. I mean, just last night they had trouble with an NAIA team, Dakota Wesleyan coming in there. But they've kind of just taken care of business, I think you would say. Like you said, all 4 of those teams are teams they should have beat. But they've looked pretty impressive doing it. And, you talk about Macy Miller coming back from an injury, some freshmen working into the lineup, Tegan Larson and China Stevens coming back from a redshirt year. There's been a lot of moving parts that AJ has kind of had to find a way to work with and work around, and he's done a pretty good job of that.
And they've been behind in the first half, and I know you asked AJ about that a couple of weeks ago, and he said, no, it's not. And it's not really an issue. He said that would really be getting nitpicky if we start saying, well, we're coming back in the second half, and that's not good enough. So they're playing at a pretty high level. And South Dakota State has got one of the great duos in the league on women's basketball in the Summit League right now. You got Macy Miller and Maddie Giebert for South Dakota State, Emily Clemens and Morgan Bloomer at Western Illinois, and then you've got Kira Duffy and Allison Arns at USD. All right, you take those duos. You got 3 other players that are just the same thing, so it comes down to these 2 guards. You got a game for $1 million. Which one of those 3 duos do you take?
I'd probably take Macy and
Would
Maddie,
you?
just based on Macy Miller's all-around game, her versatility, and then Maddie Giebert, who's going to make the shot. I mean, is there a better, more consistent shooter in the Summit League than her? That's taken nothing away from, especially, Emily Clemens is the MVP of the Summit League. But just I think the consistency for those 2, that's a real solid backbone that the Jacks have leaned on.
It's almost a Goddard and Winicky situation for women's basketball, isn't it, with Giebert and Miller right now?
Those are 2 women that could have played Big Ten basketball or probably another major college if they wanted to. They chose to come to South Dakota State, and obviously that's to the Jackrabbits' gain.
All right, the women do have a couple of tough games coming up. They play Western Illinois and USD in their next 2, so we'll
biggest test so far, certainly.
We'll see from there. Kind of the same thing for the Jackrabbit men's team. Mike Dahm averaging 31 points a game, 11.5 rebounds per game in the first 4 Summit League games so far. And is it just incredible to you that nobody in a pretty good mid-major league can stop him at all right now?
Well, no, because he's just that much better than them. You know? I think teams have tried everything, and in the post-game press conferences, you kind of hear the exasperation in the other coaches. You ask them, what did you try to do against Mike, or what was the strategy against Mike? And they're all kind of like, well, hey, it's not my fault. He's good. They've not Chauncey Billups. Rodney Billups said last week, he said, we just didn't want him to shoot 2s. Or we want him to only shoot 2s.
Yeah.
Well, he only shot 6 threes, which is a pretty low number. He made 4 of them.
Yeah.
That's 70%. And, he's 10 for 11 at the line. And the thing is, he keeps adding to his game. For one thing, it helps that you added David Jenkins, who's going to space out the floor a lot for him. But just in the game against Denver, you saw him kind of, actually not posting guys up, but taking the ball on a catch and making a move on a guy like he's a guard or something. All of a sudden he's pump faking guys and trying to cross him over a little bit or something. He's added that ball handling to his game when he already had so many other facets to it. If he keeps adding to his game, plus he's bigger than everybody, there's only so much you can do against that.
And like you said, you go start writing that story after a Jacks game right now. Dom was good. I don't know what else you say, but
yeah. Well, you throw in that Reed Tellinghusen is having the best year of his career as a senior.
Yeah.
And like I said, you bring in a David Jenkins who I think TJ thought, hey, we got a player here, but nobody, I think, thought he was going to be playing like a veteran, one of the better shooters in the league. So, I know it's such a cliche to say pick your poison, but that's really kind of the offense they have right now.
Yeah, I don't know if Dom can get through the rest of the Summer League season averaging 30 a game, but that's
if he doesn't, it means someone else is going to score more points.
Yeah, all right. All right, Jacks, again, they've got a couple of games coming up as well. USD, that's going to be a good game at Vermillion next Wednesday, where the Coyotes won by 2 last year. They played 2 really good games between South Dakota and South Dakota State. You expect something very good again in the men's game next week?
Well, certainly, because if you look at not just the standings, but kind of how some of the games have played out so far in the Summit League, SDSU and USD look like they've separated themselves on the men's and women's side, really.
Yeah.
There's some other good teams, certainly. Fort Wayne beat Indiana. NDSU beat Missouri State. But then those teams have lost some games. Oral Roberts got off to that great 3-0 start. Then they lost 2. Right now, SDSU and USD on the men's side are the 2 that really look like they're just a little bit higher than everybody else. And how they fare head-to-head, I think that's what everyone is excited to find out.
All right, got that coming up both on the men's and women's side next week. One thing before you go, saw on Twitter today, you were talking about this. There's an American Hockey League team in Charlotte, North Carolina that's supposed to play a game tonight, but they're not going to allow fans to come into the arena because
they're getting 2 inches of snow.
Come on, people, seriously. I mean, are we the only people that can handle driving in conditions like that?
I was down in, was it Alabama a couple years ago or Georgia or something for when USF was in the NAIA football championship game, and they got like less than an inch of snow, and they were closing the highways, and people were sliding off the road and everything, and we're kind of looking around like, what's with these people? So I guess they're not as hardy as us tough Midwesterners.
Apparently not as smart either. And
yeah, that too.
You got a story coming up. You're working on one for CJ Ham.
Yeah, obviously now CJ Ham, for him the story was just try to make the team. And now he's kind of established himself as their fullback, and what do you know, he's 1 win away from being in the Super Bowl in what is essentially his rookie year in the NFL, coming as an undrafted Division II kid out of Augustana. It's a pretty cool story.
All right. Thanks a lot, Matt Zimmer. Good
Thanks
luck in your game this weekend in Philadelphia. All right, up next on Midco Sports Tonight, highlights, post-game thoughts from last night's men's game in Fargo between UND and North Dakota State. That and a look at the top 2 big school girls teams in South Dakota going head-to-head last night in Harrisburg.